Welcome to 2 Cents We See Scary Movies, where the only thing more dangerous than a haunted house is a desperate live streamer. I'm Talon, the one who would lose cell service the second things get spooky but still keep filming for the content. And with me is Dan, who'd attempt a seance just to boost our subscriber count. Tonight we're diving into Deadstream, the found footage horror comedy where going viral might actually kill you. Let's break down every jump scare, cringe moment, and digital disaster.
All right, so they pretty much jump right into this one. There's no build up or anything. I mean, there's a couple title cards for like the production companies, but it goes right into this gentleman named Sean Ruddy. He's your classic YouTuber. You know, he's like overexcited about everything. He's got the room set up where he's got like the old video games, like statues and some other things that are typical of a YouTuber's room.
Right, outside of, like, a purple wall and LED lights, it was a classic YouTuber room, absolutely.
Right. And he's describing his channel a little bit, and he's talking about how he's a self-described wuss who does scary things for views.
Mhm.
He's always putting himself in bad situations that he knows he's going to be scared of. He shows a montage of the things that he does. The end of that montage it shows him harassing some police officers until the point of them chasing him. He announces the name of the channel. It's The Wrath of Sean, which it's actually kind of a cool name for a YouTube channel.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah. Right. I didn't go to look, but it'd be funny if he had done a thing where he actually created that channel. Like, if that channel actually exists somewhere.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah, and
I
it's
do know of one movie that did that. I forget the name of it right now, but we can talk
Blair
about
Witch,
that later. No.
because they did that all, like, they connected stuff in real life with the movie.
Oh, yeah, and that's what I liked about Blair Witch.
Yeah.
Um, no, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's a couple that does Instagram. They end up doing their own movie, and when the movie was going on, they had their Instagram tied to the movie, so it kinda made it look like things were actually happening as they were
Oh.
happening. So it was a bit meta, as the kids say.
Yeah.
So we learned that Sean's channel was demonetized for about 6 months due to some undisclosed incident, and it's coming up with like lot of headlines because he's like going into his channel, and then this music kicks in, and these headlines keep popping in and hitting him in the head, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And it's just saying that he was kicked off of YouTube and he was acquitted of all charges. It doesn't say what he did at this point. You do
Right.
find out later, but
Yeah.
you don't really know now. So then it shows a thumbnail of an apology video, and he looks very disingenuous in the photo. It looks like fake crying and stuff, and then
I
he's
almost felt like a lot of this stuff because you're talking where he was getting hit in the head with all these different comments and boom, 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 all these like news article or something that were
yeah,
online.
like
And
online
he
newsletter girls.
Yeah, and they kept hitting him in the head. I felt like his apology was actually mocking that type of video because you have so many that do them when they get in trouble. I
Oh
almost
yeah,
felt like he was mocking it. He wasn't actually sincere about it.
yeah.
That's how I took it.
Yeah, and so he announces that he's back to streaming, and after 6 months of eating ramen and Vienna sausages, he's making money. He makes a point to say that it's not really about the money for him, but at the same time, he's got like all these merch links, and
Yeah.
he has a sponsored drink called Thunder, which is kind of like Monster Energy, and he makes sure like he drinks it on camera.
Know what the fuck he was doing with all of his other money. I mean, he
Right.
had to be making money before. He loses his thing for 6 months and he has to eat hot dogs and ramen or whatever it was.
Well,
What
he was probably also over exaggerating too on
Oh, yeah,
purpose
yeah,
because I
yeah,
mean a
but it's
lot
like
of them do that. I mean,
oh, yeah, totally, but I'm like, "Dude, we're supposed to believe you had to eat ramen for 6 months?"
right.
Like, okay.
Um, So now he kind of gets a little serious, a little tiny bit serious, not a lot serious, but he's saying that he's done everything, not throw back to the 90s there. And he says the one thing he's never done is spent time in a haunted house. And he goes on to explain that his biggest fear is ghosts, and he has like little cutout ghosts around his room.
Yeah.
And he said that he comes from a religious home, and the last horror movie that he saw was Ghost Dad.
in just the first half.
Right, in just the first half. And considering what happened with Bill Cosby, it could be a horror movie at that time. He announces that he's going to spend the entire night in a haunted house. He says that his mother packed him a survival kit that includes holy water, a crucifix, salt, garlic, and a silver dagger. I've never heard of those things being successful towards ghosts.
Right.
Usually it's werewolves and Dracula and
Vampires, yeah.
yeah, vampires.
Maybe the holy water, but that's in the crucifix, maybe, but nothing
Maybe.
else.
But I would
Yeah.
say that if that was, like, more of a demon than anything
Right.
else. I mean, this is our vast knowledge of movie lore that we're
Yeah.
coming from. I mean, because I don't know what actually throws demons around. I mean
And I find just yelling at ghosts to go away, they will.
right.
Yeah.
You know, he says he's got one rule and one rule only to have his sponsors and the audience to hold him to, and that is if he hears something, he has to go check it out.
Right.
And if he doesn't do that, then he doesn't get paid.
Correct.
So after that, it cuts to a different screen and it has the number 7, and it's a setup where it has live streaming on one side, his sponsors on the other, and the videos on the bottom, and then the main screen in the middle. It counts down from 7 to 1. And we have like the typical found footage horror trope of a card saying, in October 2022, a beloved internet personality disappeared in a house near Payson, Utah, while broadcasting a live feed. A year later, this was his footage found. This was the footage found. And it pulls back and it's revealed to be a shirt that Sean was holding. He mentions that it's currently in his merch shop.
Right.
But it's not about the money.
No.
And then he's got a tape deck that he has, which I'm not really sure why he's got a tape deck in the year 2022, but
Well well, I'm gonna guess that he knows there's no electricity where he's going.
true. Fair enough.
So, he's got this little handheld cassette, like, back in our day, it would have been a Walkman, considered
Right,
kind of in a Walkman sort of before they get the CD Walkmans, but,
right. Those were
yeah.
Discmans.
Oh, sorry. Discmans. I forget the cleverness of it all. Yeah.
Right. He's got a soundtrack that he played and he pushes his tracks on iTunes. So now he finally announces what the name of this house, the nickname this house has. It's called the Death House. He says it's the most haunted house in the United States and he's going to spend the night there.
That's a horribly boring name.
It is.
Like, they
Absolutely.
they couldn't come up with something better than that.
Right. And the fact that he's like, this is like what, the third or fourth time he mentions that he's going to spend the night there.
Yeah.
Although that does follow suit with how annoying consistent YouTubers can be
Yeah.
because they do that shit sometimes. And not to shit on YouTube. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I like on YouTube, like, you know,
We're on
the
YouTube.
yeah, exactly. We're on YouTube. So that's the primary reason why you should be on YouTube. But everything else, you know,
Fuck 'em.
it's
Yeah.
it's like all the true crime stuff and all that, you know. So I mean, there's some good things on YouTube. I'm talking about like the type that he's portraying, like the really annoying, you
Right.
know, constantly teasing you to keep you on a string, and then it with like little to no payoff.
Yeah, it's very similar to because I don't really I don't know, maybe I'm not in the right algorithm with YouTube, but I feel like he's reflective of more the early YouTubers. Like, when
Yeah.
my now 13-year-old was young, he watched some different YouTube groups, and they were just like that over the top,
Yes.
constant, just prankery, and that's even a word, and just antics and all this stuff, and they were just all in your face, da 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 da. And I don't, and maybe I'm just not in the right algorithm, but I just don't see that anymore.
Yeah. It's probably because he hasn't watched it in a while.
Yeah.
Because my kids will screw up my algorithm sometimes. Like all of a sudden I'm watching like, you know, Barney like shit. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, why is this on my algorithm? I was watching about people dying yesterday. Now I'm watching Barney. What the hell?
Yeah, Weston told me that my, algorithm sucks. I'm like, "Well, I'm an adult, dude." I'm like
Right. Okay. So he again talks about spending the night there. He reiterates that if anything happens, he's going to do the best he can to give the best entertainment he can for his viewers. He has like a camera. I don't know if it's a camera itself, but he can flip through the cameras with his watch just by flicking his wrist.
Yeah, he had some kind of livid armband thing that looked like a Fitbit,
Yeah,
and he
Fitbit
said if
or
he
an iWatch.
yeah, and if he flicked his wrist, it would go between the cameras.
Yeah. I mean, I've never heard of that, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
that technology doesn't exist,
Yeah,
you
that was
know?
new to me.
And now he's, like, walking towards his car, and he's like, "Oh, I'm doing the push shot, like, if you can't tell," like, trying to be funny. He ends up at his car. He says that he's gotta protect himself
Ugh,
from himself.
right.
So he had taken the spark plugs out of his car and left them in the front seat, and then he picks them up and throws them into the woods.
Dumb.
And he says that he's done some stupid things before. You just did one, but he's never did them alone. So he walks to Death Manor and he explains that it was owned by a rich family and the daughter Mildred had killed herself there. There might have been a little bit more backstory, but it wasn't really pertinent to the story.
Yeah, basically
Um,
the dad did build the house for her because
yes.
she was probably like 18, and so she was like an old lady and hadn't had a date yet, so she's probably gonna be an old lady and by herself. They just assumed back then because I guess they only
Oh,
lived to,
I mean,
you know.
back then, 18, I mean, you're pretty much dried up at that point.
Right, yeah, she's done, she's a has-been. So, he built her this house so she could be alone in it by herself, miserable and unwed with no children, I guess. That was the plan. That there is a little bit to it in terms of why the house was even built and why she lived there because it kinda goes into a little bit later on. Like, there's not major significance to it, but there is a reason why she lived there.
Yeah. So he's walking closer and he's giving a little bit more history to the house where he said that there was a dead body found there years ago. The face was eaten off by rats. He insinuates that it could have had something to do with the house. Maybe, maybe not. Who
Probably
knows?
because rats live there? I don't know.
Right. True. I mean, rats need housing too. He turns his light on and screams a high pitched scream. He sees sticks and a bucket that kind of resemble a person. So he's like all like freaked out and scared of it. He's like, oh, it's satanic Wiccan crap. Which it drives me crazy when movies do that shit because Satanism and Wicca are two totally
Yeah.
different things. They're not even in the same realm.
Yeah.
But, if he was raised in a religious background, it's understandable in that sense if he's ignorant towards that, because
Mhm.
if you hear the word satanic or Wicca, witchcraft, they're like, ah, get away. They don't want to learn anything. But going back to his scream, okay. So I understand that there are people out there who, get scared easily and they might sound like a whiny bitch. No offense to anybody who's a whiny bitch. I can be sometimes, so I'm there, but he puts everybody to shame with his
Right.
screams and the way he reacts to things. Like, it is so ridiculous the way he screams. Did you
Uh-oh.
have to put your 2.2 cents in too? uh,
He's just showing you his scream, and how is
right.
that a whiny bitch scream?
Right.
Or she is, I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
keep calling her
she.
he. Yeah.
um but he puts everybody to shame with how horribly he screams.
Yeah, it's definitely a very high-pitched scream for a
Yes.
dude.
Yes.
But I will say, because I know that I get the feeling you're not a big fan of his. I don't know why. I just get that feeling.
Well,
I
honestly,
but
as far as the acting is concerned, I think he
Mhm.
did great. Considering what he had,
Right.
I thought I did really well because because again, going back to my wrestling analogy, when a wrestler goes out, they either need to be cheered or booed. If they get nothing, then
Right.
it's not a good performance.
Yeah.
So the fact that I dislike this guy for the way he's being on screen, like that YouTuber on screen,
Right.
and the way he's screaming and everything, and I'm annoyed with him. For me, that's invoking some strong emotions towards that character, which tells me he's doing a good job.
It's probably the emotions that are meant to be put out there as well. I think he's
Right.
meant to be disliked because of the
Oh,
way he
absolutely.
is. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but I found him, like, the scream and all that, and I was like, "Is he seriously being this way, or is he just overacting because he's this kind of YouTuber?"
Right.
I wasn't really sure which one, if he was truly like, "Oh, I'm terrified of this bucket with sticks in it."
I think in the beginning he was probably like that, doing the over exaggeration.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I think as it went
Oh,
on, it
yeah, yeah,
started
yeah.
becoming real, like, well, quote unquote real.
Right. Oh,
Um,
definitely. Yeah. But those first early moments and stuff where he was reacting so intensely and it was almost overdone. It was like he was doing it on purpose just because he's that kind of YouTuber.
Yeah.
But I did find he was almost childlike in a way sometimes. Like I felt like he almost was like a little kid in the
Yeah.
way that he spoke and how he acted and how he reacted a lot of times, which kids are probably his main watchers anyway
Yeah.
of his show, so that makes sense.
You know,
But anyway.
he was definitely immature for his age.
Right.
So we're still outside, and he begins to set up his cameras outside, and he says that the one that he put out there has infrared on it, so the feed will cut to it if it goes off.
Mhm.
He's looking for a way in, and he has a crowbar, breaks into the house, and as he's doing this, he said that his time away gave him some time to work on himself. That's a pertinent comment because of something that he says and does later.
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah.
He gets himself into the house and he screams because there's spiders. He does a lot of screaming.
Yes.
The house is pretty much as you expect. It's run down. There's graffiti everywhere. There's vandalism. It's old. So as he walks in, he immediately hears a noise coming from upstairs. It's like a quick bang.
Mhm.
And he says before he changes his mind, he padlocks the door and he ends up throwing the key down into an air duct in the floor.
Dumb.
Um,
It's like a
yeah,
dumb thing.
very dumb, very dumb. As he said, he's done some really stupid things before and he's been alone, so he's staying true to himself.
Mhm.
Gotta give him credit for that. And as he's doing this, he's talking about how there was 11 more bodies found after Mildred in the 50s before it was boarded up for good. He turns his flashlight and sees a jacket on a coat hook and screams and profanes. He's worried about being demonetized again, so he's like trying to plead with his sponsors, like, please don't take my money away. Maybe we can have like a three strikes you're out sort of thing.
Right.
So again, it's not about the money, but it
Nope.
is.
Yeah.
And he walks into a room and he sees "Help Me" in red on the wall. And at first he thinks it's blood, but then he realizes it's paint. And his chat is making fun of him, you know, just throwing out some random things, just calling him a chicken and all this other stuff.
Right.
As he's searching the room, he finds a heroin needle set up, like the spoons and the syringes and all that fun stuff.
Mhm.
He starts walking through again and he has a map of the house. Now, I don't know where this map of the house came from
Yeah, I was like, "How does he know this?"
because if nobody's ever been in the house since the 50s,
Oh, you know what?
well,
Actually, because later on he shows video of other haunted house hunters or whatever who've been in the house, which is obviously recent. It's not from the 50s.
right, yeah.
I didn't
It
even
was in
think
the
about this.
90s. It was in the
Yeah.
90s.
So he must have just taken it from whatever he saw them do.
Yeah,
I didn't think
probably.
about that because I was like, "How do you have this fucking map?"
Yeah, no, that makes
But
sense.
now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's it. That might be it."
So he ends up continuing walking through the house and he finds the old kitchen and he sees a butcher's knife.
Uh-huh.
Where what's that word that we like to use?
Foreshadowing? I
Foreshadowing.
actually have a comment about this. Yeah. I love talking about foreshadowing, apparently. So he sees it on the wall and I think he says, he's like screams a little bit, not like his other screams, but he's like, I think he says Judas Priest or
Yes.
something. He
Yeah.
yells something out and he focuses on this butcher knife that's hanging on a nail on the wall. And I will say, compared to last week's New Year, New You, the foreshadowing, the way they did this, I felt was handled better than in that, because at least they're integrating it in a way and it's not so on the nose like well, it was on the nose, but it wasn't like because in New Year, New You, they would just long focus shots. Nobody was even
Yeah.
using the knives. No one said anything about the knives. There's long focus shot on the knives. And
Yeah.
I was like, ugh, okay. But at least in this one, he comments on the knife. At least there's something to it. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be used later, but I figured it would be used later. But at least it's done. I felt it was done in a better way in
Yeah,
foreshadowing.
because he's searching the house and it's not like he's heavily focused on it. It's,
Right.
"Oh, there's a knife," and then he walks away.
Yeah.
You know, "There's
Mhm.
heroin needles." "Oh, that's," then walks away.
Right.
You know, so there's foreshadowing, but it's not like you said, in your face.
Yeah, it was the other ones were just so obvious that it was ridiculous. Yeah.
So he's continuing to set up his array of cameras. He says that he wants to monitor primarily 3 rooms, which is the master bedroom, where he says that there was a ghost that they nicknamed Corner Man because he's got some old video, old documentation of a photo of like this ghost-like figure in the corner of that particular room.
Mhm.
And so they nicknamed him the original name Corner Man.
Like Death House. Like
Right. So the video from 1995 is where he got that picture, and your explanation of the map, which makes sense. So as he's showing this, he hears a noise upstairs again. He looks up at the stairs and he says that's where Mildred hung herself, is like at the top of the stairs. He starts his music. It's like ominous, creepy music, and
Right.
is giving a history of the house, why it was built, and like you said earlier, how her father built the house because nobody seemed to like Mildred, and so he built it for her to have her own safe space.
Right.
He goes upstairs into the nursery and he says 5 kids, 2 babies, and 3 older kids. Well, 5 kids, including 2 babies and 3 older kids, all died in there. Doesn't really give much more to that, just says
Mhm.
that. He sees a window that's not boarded up and it's like free flowing air in. And so it's like the only place in the house that's not boarded up at this point. He sets a camera there in the nursery. He shows a video of the 1995 investigators with a girl walking them through the house and she points to something. He sets up a camera in the nursery and he's showing the video from I think this video was from like 2002, I think he said. And there's other investigators in there and there's a little girl walking with them. They're having her like seek out the ghosts, and she
Nice.
just randomly points behind one of the investigators and he says, "What?" And he turns around and the camera stops. So Sean apparently does have a moral compass,
Right.
and he states that he would never use kids in paranormal investigations. It's wrong.
Right.
So he does have some moral compass.
I think he
Uh,
actually also said that he never uses them in any of his videos. Although in this video, there is a kid. Anyway,
there is.
not that he meant for it to be that way, but there are a couple of kids in this video.
Right. So he ends up going to the bathroom where he says the last death occurred in 1955. He plays an EVP, which for those who don't know, which when I used to watch the show Ghost Hunters, it used to piss me off every single episode because they'd always be like, here we have some EVPs. EVPs is electronic voice phenomenon. So there you go. There's your explanation. So the EVPs are from the 90s. 2 guys, they're talking about how one isn't feeling good. And in the tape, you can hear someone say mama and pond water. Then the corner man says the pond water is still. And,
Right.
okay, the pond water is still. Great. Sean is explaining that Mildred wrote some poems and she met a wealthy publisher who lived in Boston and they fell in love through writing each other. For the kids, writing letters to each other is kind of like private messaging. It just took a little longer.
Right. Yes.
So he ends up teasing the rest of the story because he's like, that's where I'll leave it. We'll talk about it later. And his chat is like upset, like, hey, finish the story. And he's like, I'm going to tell the rest of the story later. He ends up setting up a hallway camera outside of what is going to be his safe room. So he sets up his safe room with his electronics and he screams. Yeah, he screams at the closet. I don't know. I think there was like a noise. And so he screams at the closet and he goes in to check on it. And he sees a bunch of old woman's clothes. You could assume that it's Mildred's old clothes. And he
Mhm.
sees like a weird plaque with a hand logo on it, and he tosses it on the floor. So he ends up announcing that he finished setting up the house with his equipment. He drinks his sponsor's Thunder energy drink. He talks to his chat, and they're still pushing him to do stupid things.
Oh, yeah,
He
yeah. Mhm.
he ends up taking a piss in the bucket, and the chat is telling him that, hey, there's a ghost. There's a ghost in the hallway. Look behind you. And he looks in and he sees the ghost in the hallway through the video camera. So he thinks the little totem thing that he found was the cause of it. So he
Mhm.
breaks it,
Right.
which we'll find out later was not a good thing. So he looks out the door and he doesn't see anything. So he comes back and the chat is still pushing him to do something stupid. Someone suggests his stupid wheel of things to do. I think
Yeah.
that's what he called it. So he spins it and it says that he's got to do a seance. As he's getting everything set up, he's finishing the story of Mildred. Her suitor was supposed to come get her and move her to Boston, but she ended up finding out that he died on the way coming to get her. Doesn't say how, he just died. I mean, back then, could have been any reason.
Yeah, tuberculosis or
Right.
consumption, I don't know what they called it back then, but,
Broken leg.
broken leg, just the flu.
Right. So she ended up killing herself the next day. He throws out a theory that the people that have died in the house, they're Mildred's constructed family. Like she's just collecting
Right.
souls to have a family around her. So I'm not really sure what happened to the seance here, but he ends up looking into the bed,
Yeah, that's
and
right, he's in the
and
kids' room, the
yeah,
nursery.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he finds a creepy clown doll and he
Mhm.
asks the chat to look up the price on eBay.
Yeah.
And
It's not about the
and
money, man.
right, exactly. And then he says that is it wrong that clowns wear whiteface because he's not in touch with those types of things at this point,
Right.
which he throws out like a little like side references like that throughout. So he starts the seance. So he says, Red Rover, send dead babies right over. And he hears a noise, but he can't. He says that he can't tell if it's the house settling or ghost noises.
Right.
And he's looking around the nursery, and all of a sudden, like there's this big bang off the roof, and he runs out of the room, like he bolts out of the room.
Yeah, screaming.
And the camera flips through and shows him running down the hallway to his safe room, screaming the entire way. And he's whining when he gets there, saying, it's coming for him. He's coming after me. And nothing's like really coming after him at this point. It's just a loud bang. And his chat is making fun of him for being scared of everything. He ends up rolling his eyes back and he starts to choke. He starts messing around. He's like, maybe they can make a movie called like the Shaunercist
Yeah.
or something like that. And he's like, oh, maybe he'll make his own Exorcist movie because he's such a great actor.
Right.
Then he looks at the camera. Wait, this is where he takes the piss and throws the thing.
Okay. It doesn't matter, they're not gonna watch it anyway.
So he takes a piss at this point in a white bucket, and he looks at the camera and he sees a ghost. But he's trying to say that it's Photoshop and he's not falling for it.
Right, yeah.
And
Mhm.
he watches it back and checks the time code, and it scares him because he's starting to see that it's matching up the right way.
Right.
And so he ends up like going to a bed and hiding under a blanket.
No, he ran in the
And
closet.
was it the
Right?
closet?
Yeah, because this is
Okay.
I had a thing for this too, because I was like so, yeah, he stops to pee in the safe room, and while he's doing that, he's not watching the video. We can see as viewers of the movie that his followers are like, "Hey, hey, hey, there's a ghost out there in the hallway," and then he goes and he watches it, and he freaks out, and so he runs into the closet and grabs the blanket that's on the floor of the closet and hides under it, and it
Yeah.
always cracks me up when people try to hide from ghosts, like, they're ghosts. They can walk through walls. They
Right.
know. They know where you are. Neither that
Right.
closet nor that blanket is going to save you. So, why do people do that? I don't understand. What are you hiding from ghosts for?
It's a
So,
special blanket.
yeah.
It's his mommy's blankie.
Well, I guess it's sort of like when you're a kid and you're afraid and you hide under your blankets and or when you're even as an adult, I know adults who don't like to have their like foot hang over the edge of the bed or something like that because the scary monster in the bed's gonna grab your foot
Right.
or whatever. So maybe it's the same idea. If I can't see them, they can't see me. So, but yeah, I was like, "Ugh, why are you hiding from a ghost? They can just walk right in
Right.
there. They know where you are."
So he's saying at this point that he doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to get out. He's not going to go check. And his chat reminds him of the rules. He's like, screw the rules. He's like, it's probably Slenderman.
Yeah.
So he's like, give me some time to think, because he wants to try to get his bearings back and try to think about what's going on. He's like, all I have to do is just go to the spot and come back. He's like, I can't do that. But then he's like, oh, my sponsor may not pay me. So he pulls out his spare kit and takes a crucifix with him, puts it around his neck,
Mhm.
and he goes into the hallway. He asks for support from his chat of saying, can you send me like cute pictures of puppies and kittens and stuff? So when he's in the hallway, he hears a bump. He's looking at the door across the hall and he's not sure if he left it open or not because it's cracked open at this point. Every little thing is jump scaring him and making him scream.
Right.
He hears more noises as if someone's running through the hallway,
Right. Yeah.
and a door opens and he screams more and runs back to the safe house. The way he says, "What do you want from me?" sounds like Adam Sandler. They're all gonna laugh at you.
So I have a comment on this scene where he runs screaming back into the safe room. That door to the safe room opens out. And when
Yes.
he runs into the safe room, there's a big desk or dresser right there at the doorway. And he slides it in front of the door. And I was like, dude, that door opens out. That is not going to do anything. Even, and
True.
especially if it's a ghost, again, because the ghost could just go right through it. But
Right.
if there was actually something that was, solid, it's just going to open the door and then push the desk. Like, what the fuck? That doesn't do shit.
Right. So he blocks the door with that desk, and now he's hearing like strong banging, like knocking on the door, like banging,
Yeah.
and the door opens up, and he's completely freaked out. Like, I mean, he's pissing and shitting his pants, basically. A cute girl walks in, and she's like, "Hey, I'm a big fan."
She's super excited to see him.
Yeah. And Sean's like, "You shouldn't be here. I'm glad you're here, but you shouldn't be here." He hugs her a couple times. He asks, how she found him. She says, "My name's Christy. I follow you online."
It's Chrissy.
Did I say Chrissy?
You said Christy,
Oh,
which
Chrissy.
is what he accidentally calls her a couple
Uh,
times. I was
all
just
right.
making fun because he did the same thing.
Gotcha. So her name is Chris E. And she's like, "Hey, I follow you online and I comment on your stuff all the time. You might remember my name." She says her name. I can't remember it,
It's
like
like
her screen name.
Chrissy Cat, something. Of course, it had cat
94
in
or
it. Yeah.
95 or something. He's like, "I need to sit down to process." Chrissy sits down immediately. He's still standing up, and he offers her a Thunder energy drink,
Mhm.
which she declines. He asks again, "How did you find me?" She's like, "Well, you left a bunch of info online," and she started to tell him how she found him. He's like, "Stop, because I don't need anybody else coming over." He's like, "You drove yourself, like by yourself, like all the way through like these roads and got to the house and the woods and everything." She's like, "I just want to say hi in person." She just wanted to help with ghost hunting. He's like, "I don't need help with that. I'm doing a good job myself."
Right.
Sean again is like, "Hey, I want to leave. I just want to get out of here." And she's like, "Well, what about the money?" And he's like, You can't pay me enough." She opens up his laptop and she's like, "Hey, you have a record amount of viewers."
Right.
He looks at the laptop and, sure enough, I mean, I didn't see the number, but
I didn't either.
his reaction is that she's right, that he's got the most viewers that he's ever had.
Yeah.
She's noticing all the stuff that is saying that the chat wants her to stay. Well, wants them to stay. And he's like, "No, this is my feed, so it's me." The chat is somewhat divided, but is with her the most because he
Yeah.
puts up a poll and it's close, but they want her to stay. He's like, "All right, so you can stay." He talks to the sponsors on the feed saying how it's still within parameters because she showed up on her own. He didn't ask her to come. He puts a camera on her so they can film what she's doing, and they start to explore the house. As they're walking through, he has her back to back so he can see the camera from her angle, so he can see going forward and going back at the same time. She's like, "Hey, let's go to the master bedroom." He's like, "No, I don't really want to," but then agrees to go.
Mhm.
Like, it didn't take much to get him to
Yeah.
go. He's trying to give direction on how the cameras are set up and which way they're going to go and everything. Sean's getting a little annoyed for Chrissy stepping on toes, because she's not the director. It's not her stream.
Right.
So she has no say in how they do things. So they get to the master bedroom and he turns around and she's not there. Sean is freaked out by this. He's like, "What the hell? Where are you?" And Chrissy, Chrissy, Chrissy. Then she comes bursting through like one of the side doors, laughing, and he's all freaked out. He says that they're no longer allowed to split up. Like, they have to be together at all times. Chrissy walks to the corner of the room. Sean's like, "No, don't go there because that's Corner Man's corner."
Yeah. I have a little comment here too. And even though I had noticed it earlier in the movie, for some reason, I guess because she was close to the door, I really thought about it. But some of the graffiti in this house, I was like, what the fuck does this graffiti mean? Because on that door next to her, it said out of role, ROLE. I was like, what does that mean? out of role. But there was a lot of graffiti in that house because for some reason I paid attention to the graffiti that were just sentences that made absolutely no sense. And I was like, why'd they I mean, I'm sure they just went through when they were, getting ready to film and just did a bunch of whatever. But it's like, why did they pick these sentences? These sentences don't make any sense to me. I mean, and maybe there's a deeper meaning that I just don't like there's some kind of backstory that I don't know. But I was like, the graffiti drove me nuts in that house.
Maybe it was ChatGPT.
Yeah.
ChatGPT, design
Yeah.
some graffiti for me.
Makes no fucking sense. Yeah. It's
um,
perfect. Yeah.
so as they're exploring the room, Chrissy ends up in the closet and she ends up screaming loud, which makes Sean scream loud because again he screams at everything.
But her scream was way better than his screams.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Sean checks it out, and they find a set of secret stairs. And Chrissy's like, "Hey, let's go down." Sean's like, "Maybe not," and he ends up going to do it anyway. And he says that it smells like dead feet because it looks like one of those old dirt cellars,
Yeah.
which my grandmother used to have, and it was like one of the only places I was ever creeped out.
Yeah. Those I think like are pretty creepy.
Yeah. There's a bed there, and Chrissy finds a chest that happened to be under the bed. When they open it, they find old clothes and a smaller box that's locked. Chrissy had also found a necklace that she puts around her neck. John's like, "Hey, is this Mildred's stuff?" Then he finds Mildred's poetry book. He thought that it was going to be some sort of journal, but he's disappointed when he finds out that it's just poetry. Chrissy's like, "Hey, why don't we read to one another?" And Sean's like, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah, she's super excited about it, and he's just like, this is
Yeah,
boring. This is
right.
horrible."
Yeah, because he wanted like the dirt. He didn't want stinky poems. So he looks around and they find a dead animal, which creeps them both out. They both end up running up the stairs. Chrissy's in the back, all distraught, like they were earlier. Sean is excited for getting back to the safe house, or the safe room, rather. The chat is now pushing him again to do the wheel of stupid things. He agrees, and so Chrissy spins it, and it lands in the middle of EVP and Spirit Board. They keep on calling it the Spirit Board. They're trying very hard not to use the term Ouija. I think it's, because Hasbro won't allow them to use it. And so he tells her to spin again, and Chris is like, "No, this wasn't by accident. Like something wants us to do both."
Right.
He pulls out the spirit board and his tape recorder. Chrissy asks if there's any candles, but all he has was like green LED lights. She tells him to read some of the poems, and he's like, "No, they're boring." Chrissy gets a little agitated, stating, "No, they're not."
Yeah, she's super pissed about he called him boring.
Yeah. And he gets a bit indignant. It's like, "Well, it's my show." He starts with asking for the kids in the house to speak to him, and he doesn't want to talk to the corner man ghost. Then he tells Chrissy to speak. Chrissy asks, "How are you, my spirit children?" And then they hear a noise. Sean asks if the children were killed by Mildred. Chrissy suggests a Latin phrase, she says, that is a chant of peace. So she starts saying the words, and he repeats them. And they end up hearing a loud bang.
When it comes to this Latin she's using, so some of the words, I paid more attention the second time I watched it to see. I mean, I don't know Latin. I didn't study Latin, but I do love English, and English, as do many languages, derived from Latin. So I do know some Latin words. So she says, I don't know, she says some things, but two words that stuck out to me was domine. And I'm only bringing this up because later on somebody else translated quote unquote, and they don't use these words at all. But domine means Lord, and what does she say? Anima, anima,
Anima or anime?
Anima mea? I think she says it like anima mea or
Okay.
something like that. Now, anime means soul, and mia, like mea culpa, mia means my. So it would be my soul. The other
Right.
words, I don't fucking know what those were.
Right.
But those two, so it's something about my soul and Lord are part of this chant. And I'm just making that statement because later on, somebody else interprets the chant. And I was like, that is not even close to what they said. It's like, okay.
So as they speak the words, they hear a loud bang, and he suggests that there might be something in the bathroom. And Chrissy says, hey, let's go check it out. Again, he's hesitant, doesn't want to do it. She reminds him of the rules. The chat starts giving him a lot of shit, saying that Chrissy is braver than him because she's all gung ho to go look. And he's like, no, I'm good.
Which surprised me a little bit. Like, I was surprised that he wanted to stay in that room by himself.
Right. And at this point, Chrissy's like, hey, you don't have to worry about it because you won't be afraid anymore. And,
Foreshadowing.
right. He ends up suggesting that Chrissy should go. I think she meant leaving. She reminds him that he said that they must stay together. And the chat is giving him more shit about what's going on between them. He explains that Chrissy's a strong, independent woman and she can go look for herself. So he turns on his music and he's watching her on the video going up the stairs. He gets distracted by noises, and he sees on the camera that the feed that's on her camera is no longer functioning. It's like
Mhm.
snow and lines, and it's not
Yeah.
working. He leaves the room. He goes up the stairs calling her name. He's walking down the hall to the bathroom. He walks down the hallway to the bathroom. Chrissy jumps out at him and he screams. She seems to get off on the idea that she's scaring the shit out of him every single
Right.
time.
And he gets pissed more and more.
Yeah, and now he's like really mad because she scared him, and he grills her where she was and what she was doing. And she's like, I was hiding. He starts getting suspicious and he asks, how does she know where to hide? How did she get in the house? Because he locked the door. He also asked if she got here before him. She's like, got in through a window. Could be the window that we saw in the nursery. Sean is not happy and he's accusing her of being a stalker, and the entire time he's yelling at her. He uninvites her and goes back to the safe room to try to exorcise demon kids. She says it's not a good idea and laughs and kind of like has a weird look on her face. She lunges at him and starts biting his neck. Blood is coming out, and he pulls a piece of wood off of the wall and slams it into her neck. And she falls over and her neck is like all bleeding and the wood is sticking out of it. There's a pool of blood forming. And Sean's like, oh my God, it was an accident. It was an accident. And he runs to the safe room yelling to his chat, like, he didn't mean it. Like, I didn't mean it. Call the cops. It was an accident. You saw what happened. I didn't mean to do it. And he tells the chat, you call the police. I'll turn myself in. Again, it was an accident.
Mhm.
And so he goes to the hall to check on her, and she's gone.
Right.
The blood is still there on the floor, but she's
Mhm.
gone. She's out. And he's slowly walking through the hall, calling her name. He says that he'll leave her a first aid kit. Don't know what a first aid kit's going to do with a hole in the neck, but Here, let me put that Band-Aid on it.
Right.
So after he says that, another bang happens upstairs. He screams and runs to the safe room. He really loves the safe room.
Yeah.
He looks on the hallway camera and he sees a hanging body at the end of the stairs. And he's like, oh my God, it's Mildred. His chat is saying to leave, but he can't because the only exit is the stairs, which Mildred is hanging over. On his chat, there's a video of a kid explaining the plaque that he found. He says it's I think it was like a Hasma
Yeah, it
or
was, something
Hansma,
like that.
something like that. And he kind of explains what it is, and it's like a trinket of some sort that wards off evil. He says many faiths use it, including Christian, Jews, and the pagans.
Yeah, it's like that page.
I don't know if the kid messed it up on purpose, if he mispronounced it and they just kept it in the movie.
Right.
I don't know, but the pagans use it too. So he's like, well, it stopped working, so I broke it. Then the chat starts like blowing smoke, saying, oh, you did what you could. Sean realizes that by breaking that thing, and he's yelling for help and at his chat. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
what his chat's going to do to help, but the moral support is there, I guess. He leaves the safe room, but he does not physically see her in the hall, but he just does see her hanging in the video, kind of like what
Right.
you said earlier.
Yeah.
He walks towards her with the video up, so you can see him walking towards her, and like he's looking. He drops the monitor, and Chrissy/Mildred is in front of him with gray skin. Like, I think right now she's like in the Chrissy form, and she's got like gray skin,
Yeah.
matted hair, gross teeth, and like a significantly creepy smile. And she screams and lunges at him. She ends up on his back. I don't know how, because she lunged at him facing him. They were face to face, and she ended up on his back somehow.
Right.
And she gets him in a sleeper hold, WWF style, and he passes out. And I don't know what the point of this was, but she starts picking his nose.
Yeah, she has this whole thing with the nose. It's like which again is very childlike, like kid-like, to me.
Yeah.
I was like, "Is she just as childish as he is?" I was like, "What the
I
fuck is she
mean
putting her finger up his nose
I
for?"
mean, I'm not gonna kink shame, but there's just some things that are no.
Right, and she's got that long ass fingernail. I was like, "Ugh."
Right. So he ends up waking up and he breaks free and he runs away. He ends up throwing her backwards and she ends up falling down the stairs. He runs over to the locked door, the door that he locked
Right.
before.
Duh.
And so he pull so he pulls the grate off the floor to grab the key that he threw down there. We start to see that he's got a nosebleed and he ends up picking her fingernail out of his nose. Again, I don't know what the point of all that was because there was no explanation, no reasoning. Just she was putting her finger up his nose.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't figure it out either. I was like, "What's
Yeah.
the significance of this thing?"
So he does find a key, but it's not the one that he dropped. It's a different one. And he ends up picking up a wooden board and he runs to a window. He tries to kick out the window, but he hurt his leg a little bit.
Yeah, because it's boarded up. It's a boarded up
Ye-
window, it's not glass.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That does help to point that out. And he's asking for the cops again with his chat. And the chat suggests that he uses the key to open the little wooden box that Chrissy found earlier.
Mhm.
And he finds an old picture of Mildred and it looks exactly like Chrissy.
Shock. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it.
And there's a wrapped mummified finger in the box.
Mhm.
And he throws the finger, because he's like, what the hell? Which appropriate
Understandable.
response.
Yeah.
So Chad tells him to jump out the window and he says that he can't. He says that he's not going back upstairs for any reason. Then he hears another bang and he sees a figure walking by the door, which is
Mhm.
possibly Corner Man.
Right.
I don't know
Mhm.
why he's out of his corner, but
Yeah,
he's walking around the house.
the nerve.
Right. And so that prompts him to run straight upstairs to Mildred's old room, which I'm not sure that would be the wisest thing, because it's her room. Well,
Yeah,
granted, it's her entire house, but I mean,
right.
that's her room specifically. He has a rope and he ties it to the bed. When he hears the baby crying, there's like a form in the bed itself.
Under the blanket or whatever.
And like all of a sudden, like that figure kind of like it looks like it goes through the floor. Like
It
just like
bolts towards him. It's like, vroom.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so he runs to the hallway and he falls and he hears a
Well
moaning voice.
well, the
Go
funny
ahead.
part about that is because he had tied the rope to the bed post,
Right.
but then tied the rope around his waist. So when he ran out the door, he got jerked back because the rope ran out and he was still tied to it. So I thought that was actually pretty funny.
Okay, I don't know if I saw that out of order or if it was out of order because after the moaning voice and he runs to the hallway and falls, that's when I saw that he tied the other end of the rope to his waist.
No, he untied at that point.
Oh, he untied it. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard trying to take notes and
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
watch it at the same time. You miss some things every once in a while. Then again, he runs back to the safe room. He again says that he's going to wait for the cops. He's just going to sit there and wait for the cops. He gets a message from chat saying that Mildred owns him. The person that said it sent him a video. It's a African American woman that says that she's a professor at Brown University. She says that she translated the poem. Basically, he sold his soul to Mildred. Like
Yeah.
he gave his soul up to Mildred.
Yeah, she translated that Latin stuff, and she said a bunch of stuff and about what it said, which was not what the 2
I'm
words I knew
sorry,
were.
but do you know more than a Brown University instructor? Do you?
A Brown University instructor whose role was written by this guy? Yeah. Of course I do.
So one of her kids was talking very seriously, saying that, Mildred, like they believe Mildred likes to mess with people's heads and forces them to recite the poem so she can own like all these people. At this point, Chat's kind of turning on him a little bit, saying that it's karma. And he's like,
Right.
I apologized because he felt like he had to because his parents were getting death threats and he was broke. And then he reminds everybody that he was acquitted and he's upset that nobody seems to remember that part. He says that the apology was not sincere and regrets doing it. This is where we find out, well, we're getting closer to find out what he did.
Right.
Because his chat says, you put the homeless guy in the hospital.
Mhm.
And Sean says, like, he didn't know he was sick and he signed a waiver. Like, that's
Right.
supposed to absolve him of any kind of thing. Then the chat accuses him of being racist, which he totally denies.
Mhm.
Then he hears, well, I have it in the notes as Chrissy. We'll call her Mildred going forward. Then he hears Mildred's voice in the closet, and it's her sweet, voice that she was using as Chrissy. Then he hears faint breathing. He moves a blanket from himself, and her head is in his crotch, and she bites his dong.
And this is proof that that blanket and that closet aren't going to keep
Cannot help you.
anybody from finding you.
At that point, he has the motivation to run and jump out the window.
And at that point, he screams, and it's probably the one scream that was very understandable.
Yeah, it was warranted this time.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
He ends up hurting himself further after jumping out, like he's got a pretty big gash on his leg.
Yeah, when he jumped out that window, because they show it, he takes off and just runs and goes to the nursery and just flies right out the window, no thought whatsoever. Then they show it from the outside. You can see where he falls. It's it's a second story floor, but it's a pretty high. There's
Yeah,
probably 10-foot ceilings in that house at least.
Yeah, it's a
And
high second floor.
it's a good drop. And I was like, dude, you should totally parkoured that. Like he could have saved himself some injury, but anyway.
So he yells for the cops, like, hey, where are they? Why aren't they here? The chat ends up telling him, hey, why don't you clean up your wound? And he's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. So he gets the first aid kit and he puts a little bit of rubbing alcohol on a Q-tip and he puts it on there and he lets out a bloody blue scream.
Again, warranted.
Yep.
That's gotta burn like a bitch.
And he hears a growl from the house and he forces himself up.
He does cover his leg in duct tape as well.
Yes, that's right. He does use the duct tape for that, yes. Duct tape does solve everything. He runs to the car and then he remembers that the spark plugs were thrown into the woods.
Ooh.
And he goes into where he thought he threw them. He's looking around. He hears a distant scream and a laugh in the woods. He finds both spark plugs with the greatest of ease. He just had to turn his head and they were about 2 feet away from each other. There's a figure in the woods that ends up screaming at him and he runs out and falls.
Mm-hmm.
A police officer comes out of nowhere and he asks him his name. And, Sean's like super happy that he's there. And he's looking for the cop car. He's like, where's your cop car? Where's your car?
Yeah, we gotta get out of here.
Right. The officer says, that you're okay. I've been watching the stream and you've got some really great stuff going on there. Sean's like completely confused. Like, what do you mean? The cop's voice starts to go into a demonic tone and says, I really don't like it when you hurt people, Sean. And Sean is scared. Surprise! Sean seems to be scared a lot in this. He continues to say that he didn't do it on purpose, it wasn't his fault, and he kicks the cop in the junk and runs away. He gets to his car and hides with his flashlight completely on. Like the cop's not going to find him in his flashlight. He hears noises outside of the car, and he's like, I can't see.
It's because you got your damn flashlight on.
Right, turn your flashlight on, you might have a better time. And so what he ends up doing is he MacGyvers the camera onto a Slim Jim that was in the car with duct tape. So he's using the Slim Jim as a selfie stick. All I have to say is that's going to be some rotten ass Slim Jim because they're not very stiff. They're pretty flexible. And he sticks the camera out of the car window and he just sees trees and the cop is laying there shaking. Chat shows him a picture of Mildred's father, who is Corner Man.
Corner Man.
Who is the police officer. Corner Man has a lot of roles in this movie.
He does.
Maybe that's why that thing about roll in graffiti was there.
Oh, there you go. Good connection. Good connection.
Then the chat tells him that they found the Hamas lady, the one that, did the warding spirit
made the hand thing. Mm-hmm.
She's like an old lady. And she explains that she used to work in the house for a long time ago when she was like 19. The woman's like 80 now. She was like 19 when she was working there. She discusses the spirit of Mildred, saying how, she messed things up back then too. She made this Hamas thing to ward off her spirit. It was upstairs in the closet to keep the spirit at bay. A person identified as her son off camera says that Sean destroyed it. She's just like, oh shit. He's gonna die. No sugarcoating it. Nope, you're done.
That's it for you, buddy.
And the son off camera asks if there's anything he can do to fix the situation. She takes her time, but then says yes, he's going to make another Hamas and it needs to be more powerful than Mildred because she sold her soul to the devil. At this point, he's flipping between the video and the beef cam and sees the cop slowly approaching the car, but he's on his knees. Like he's just crawling on his knees. Sean screams and he's like, hurry, he's coming. He's not trying to get out of the car. He's not trying to run away. He's just sitting in the car saying, hurry, he's coming. He speeds the video up to the part where she's discussing making the new Hamas. She says it starts with a sacrifice of flesh. At that point, Sean is interrupted by his car shaking violently. Like it's like really shaking. And it stops and there's more noises outside. He finds a potato gun in his car along with some potatoes.
Well, the
Things that you...
potato bag was empty.
Was the potato bag empty?
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, potatoes," and he
Okay.
was like, "Damn, it's empty," because he doesn't use a potato.
Oh, okay, that's right. Because it was in one of those I looked up when I was writing notes. But so I mean, everybody has a potato gun in their car.
Always.
And the ghost is banging on the window, and he's got. I don't know what the ghost was saying because he was saying something in the
Yeah,
window, but I don't know what it
he
was.
he was, and I can picture it, but I can't remember what he said.
Yeah. Sean finds a Sean bobblehead
Mhm,
and puts it in the gun. The ghost breaks into the car the opposite side of the window from where Sean is sitting, and
mhm.
he goes after Sean. The ghost keeps saying his name, Sean, Shawnee, Sean. Sean fires the bobblehead, and it goes all the way through this ghost creature. With as much rubber that this suit was made of, I'm surprised it didn't bounce back.
Right.
The costume dummy is horrible looking. Like the whatever this costume was made out of, if it was like a prosthetic dummy, it was just absolutely. This movie is not going to be known for its special effects. It's not, because like absolutely no money went into special effects at all. Like when I was in college, we did a haunted house for our dorm so we can make a little money.
Mm.
And all we had was stuff that we found in the attic and stuff that we brought home. We did a better job than what these people did with these costumes.
Right. This is I'm guessing it, well, you'd call it an independent film because he is the writer, director, and his wife, writer, directors, producers. So I'm guessing they just did this on their own. So
Well, if that's the case, then I can give them some credit then, because
yeah, I guess it
if
wasn't bad
if
for doing it themselves. Yeah.
because if it was completely by themselves, I can kind of forgive some of the cheesy
Yeah.
costuming.
It wasn't like some big budget, production company per se.
Okay, so
So
negate my horrible special effects comments. They did good with what they had. I'm apologizing because I have to.
right. I need to hear I need to hear some tears, Dan.
So the bobblehead goes right through the ghost creature, and he falls forward onto the gun, slowly sliding down toward Sean's face. Sean screams
Yeah.
and pushes him off and laughs in like a nervous laugh, not a
Right.
haha, I'm funny laughing.
Mhm.
Through this incident, he finds that his camera monitor is broken, so he can't see where he's going. Like he doesn't know where he's going, what's around him. Sean yells pretty obnoxiously at this point. So he looks around and he gets back into the car and he's yelling for help, stating that he's dying. He's gonna die, I'm dying. And he's not sure if he's still streaming. He has blood on his hands, which I don't, well, that probably could have come from his leg. I was gonna say, I don't know where it came from because the ghost didn't bleed, but it could be from his legs.
Yeah.
He's very concerned about his reputation and what he's going to be known as, because he's like, I don't want to be known as a douchebag. He's talking to God, asking why he's been smitten,
Mhm.
and he says that he's sorry, but he's just more concerned about how he's going to be viewed rather than
Yeah.
living.
Right.
He has Mildred's poetry book, and he finds an anti-Hamas hand drawing that he assumes is how she sold her soul. Like
Right.
the drawing itself, yeah, because it's supposed to be like the opposite of the other one. So he figures that that's probably how she sold her soul. And he finds a poem that mentions pond water. And he mentions it and he puts it all together. And he's like, about what the ghosts are saying. And he's like, she's making them memorize her poems.
Right.
He said she's a psycho just like him because she wants an audience.
Right.
She just wants people to listen and see. And he realizes that, she's collecting all these ghosts and all these spirits, kind of like a following like he does.
Right.
Then he starts talking about like a good way to stop her is a copyright strike. Okay, you know, out
Uh-huh.
of touch streamer, we'll say that. And he relates it to a time when he was doing a beach episode and he was singing a Beach Boys song,
Right.
and they end up copywriting him, like
Mhm.
giving him a copyright strike. What his idea is, he's going to do the ritual on the page as it's written, basically stealing her power by doing the ritual.
Which doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Not at all.
I was like, "So you now want to be you're basically being her. You'd have to take her power, and you're selling your soul to the devil too, blah, 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 blah."
Right,
Like, okay, good job.
just passing it along,
Right.
pay it forward.
Yeah.
Uh, he plays his music on his radio or his tape deck, and he's like, "Let's demonize this bitch. Oh no, demonetize this
Yeah.
bitch," is what it was. He goes back to the house and breaks in a different door, this time with a very macho type scream.
Yeah, he's ready.
Yeah, he is ready to go to town. He finds a broom handle, tapes his silver dagger to it, rubs it with some garlic on the tip. He finds a syringe from the heroin pile and
Mhm.
fills it with holy water. He's going through the house, get back into the kitchen, and he grabs the butcher's knife. He ends up going upstairs, yelling to Mildred that he understands what she's trying to do, but she took it way too far. You know,
Right.
she's killed too many people. You're building your audience the wrong way. You're just doing too much. He goes to the hallway to the safe room yet again to see his laptop, and he sees,
Yeah, because he broke his that's the one that when that thing out in the car fell on him and he fell out of the car or whatever, he broke his
yeah, the monitor.
yeah, he had the like, a iPad or whatever.
Yeah, iPad monitor.
Yeah, he broke it. It's actually funny because I forgot I was gonna say this part. When he broke that monitor, at that point, I thought to myself, "Ooh," because even though he's been alone this whole time, he's been able to talk to his chat. So it
Right.
probably didn't feel like he was alone. When he broke his iPad, it must have felt like like very lonely at that point, like you were completely alone because he did kind of
Yeah.
freak out because and he felt completely alone. So yeah, he had to get back inside the house for one reason was to check his laptop and get back in with the chat because he didn't even know if he was live streaming anymore. So he had to go back in there to look at that. And then at some point, he had an iPad again. And I was like, did he already have another iPad?
Yeah,
Did
he
he
had it in he had a safe room.
okay, because I know he had the laptop, but I didn't realize he had 2 iPads. And I was like confused. I was like, wait, I didn't know he had another iPad, but okay.
Yeah, we're actually about to get to that part. So he gets to his laptop and he sees that he's still streaming, and the chat translated the words on the Hamas page that he had,
The
and
one
he
that he got from her book,
correct,
the
yes, the one from
back
the book.
the bad one. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, the not good one. And he hears Mildred scream. He finds another monitor in his backpack and he starts the ritual. He starts speaking to his chat that he's probably going to die and that he wanted to sincerely apologizing for hurting some people with his stunts. And he says, for realsies this time. And so this is where we learn that Sean had paid a homeless guy to fight him.
Yeah.
And he had assumed that the guy was big enough to be able to handle the fight, but he ended up hurting the guy in the fight, putting him in the hospital. He apologizes for even thinking about it and apologizing to the minorities for smuggling himself over the border in luggage. He admits that he was a jerk and dedicates the stream to the blacks and the Mexicans. So that's good.
Good. I'm sure they appreciate it.
You know, that solves everything. You know, racism done. It is over. The world is free of racism. He puts his music back on and he promises that he's going to give the best cinematic live streaming ever. He stands in the safe room yelling Mildred's name, saying he's waiting, and so is his soul. He starts reading a poem. He says it's not very good and hears a hiss in the hallway. Or at least I did. I don't know if you did.
I don't know.
It sounded like a hiss. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
He walked into the nursery where he sees 2 clowns now, like the 2 white-faced clowns. He sees a little boy sitting on the bed. He picks up a doll and walks over to the bed. He turns around and he's got like a deformed conjoined twin coming out of his stomach.
Yeah.
Sean jumps back through the door and he shuts it and puts salt around the bottom of the door. When again he hears a bang. There's a lot of bangs in this house.
Yeah.
He whips around to the rope in the ceiling Another bang happens, and hears Mildred's voice saying, Shawnee. He yells at her, calling her out. He says, come get me. She says, come get her. And they keep doing this for, a couple backs and forths. Basically, they're in a stalemate.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny little exchange the way they were saying it.
Yeah, it was. They're still going back and forth when he switches the camera, and he sees Corner Man. Where? In the corner behind him.
What?
He turns around in the hallway, but he sees nothing physically there, and he walks over to the corner and stabs it with the knife on the broom. And he ends up sticking the ghost, and it's in him for a second. But then the ghost grabs it. Now we're seeing things from the ghost perspective.
Somehow, yeah.
The ghost grabs it from him and turns it around, he's on his knees, and
Yeah.
Sean throws like garlic cloves at him. And the ghost ends up stabbing Sean in the side. And then Sean gets up and runs into one of the rooms. If we've noticed the theme, Sean screams, there's a bang, he runs, goes to the safe room. There's a lot of that.
He didn't run to the bathroom?
No, he didn't go into the bathroom this
Oh,
time
okay,
around.
okay.
So the ghost is coming after him. The corner man is coming after him. He's in the bedroom, whichever room he's in, and the ghost is like banging on the door really bad. Again, the only part of the movie that actually creeped me out is banging on the door.
Right. Neighbor did that again to me the other day, by the way. Dude, I'm not
Right.
answering the fucking door.
Yeah, we need to take that neighbor out.
Yes.
And I don't mean for drinks.
Isn't this where you put your PSA in?
Oh, yes, we don't believe in murder.
Yeah.
So Mildred's voice is normal again, saying that she's scared and Sean hurt her pretty bad. He's like, yeah, I'm not falling for that. But he pleads to Mildred about his followers and how they could help her with an audience. Like, if she'd come up and maybe I can give you exposure.
Right.
At this point, the flashlight batteries run out, and Mildred's voice is
Oh, he's in the
really
bathroom.
close to him. Is he in
He's
the
in the
bathroom
bathroom
this
in
time?
this scene.
Okay.
Yeah, when the flashlight goes out, because after he got almost stabbed or whatever, or he got stabbed, he ran to the bathroom. It wasn't the safe room. Yeah.
So Mildred's voice is close and says, Sean, I want you to meet someone. We get light back, and Sean is sitting there with his mouth gaped open and his eyes are glossed over with a white tint. Like
Mhm.
his pupils are very white. And you can hear voices all around him, just tiny little voices, not really children, but just like small sounding voices.
Yeah.
And you find that he's in the bathtub in like really crappy water. He says it feels good, like the water is like nice. He's probably possessed for the moment, but
Yeah.
he thinks the water's nice. He reaches down and pulls out an eyeball, and he decides to eat it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying I think he's possessed, because I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I don't see him actually eating an eyeball.
No.
And he's like, oh, this is like really good. He hears Mildred and yells her name. He says the pond water is still and dunks into the tub. There's a brief shot of him in and out of the water. He's just kind of like bobbing up and down. He pops up and he yells, I'm an influencer, as if it's like Superman or Mighty Mouse or something. So Corner Man pops up out of the tub without an eye. So you assume that he just ate Corner Man's eye.
Right. Yeah.
And Corner Man grabs Sean. Sean stabs him with the holy water needle. The ghost, slowly dies off.
Right.
Now he's not like moving anymore. And
All
I don't
right,
know if you can really call them. Well, hold on. I don't know if you can really call them ghosts, because they're not really going through anything and they're pretty solid.
Yeah, they are very solid. Now there was that, of course, in the beginning, that one point when he first saw the ghost in the video, that looked very ghostly.
Yes.
But everything else looks pretty darn solid. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
But again, they probably couldn't do those. They probably didn't have enough money for the special effects to do
Right.
for the wall and stuff.
So I forgot to mention this earlier, but since we're at the bathtub, I will mention it now. So when he first went upstairs, when he was first going through the house, he went to the bathroom. That bathtub has like it's half full of water. So I did some scientific research because I was like, well, how long has it been since somebody's been there if there's a half a tub of water? Well, now, if you're just assuming that it's full, it was full originally, some of it's evaporated, right?
Right.
According to last known people that lived there, it was like 1955 or something like that.
Right.
By the looks of the house and the graffiti, other people had been there. But I was like, how long has it been since somebody else has been there? So I did some scientific research and I found that under typical fall conditions in Utah, which is around 40 to 50 degrees in like late October, it would take months, possibly 6 months or more, to lose half a tub of water to evaporation.
Oh, wow.
So, in case anybody needs to know,
Right,
because
right,
I needed
that's
to
good to
know,
know.
I was like, "Why is there still water in this tub?" I had to find out. So, there we go. Okay.
So the ghost is stopped, and Sean is gloating at this point. He's like, hey, the garlic didn't work, but holy water did. And as
Right.
he's doing that, the ghost's head explodes all over him. It looks like tapioca pudding, but
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be like pus or something.
Right.
And so he's getting out of the tub. He's like, I'm going to stop Mildred. And he takes out her poems and throws it into the hallway, like her book, her entire book. He throws it
Yeah.
into the hallway, and he switches to the camera and he sees the book floating down the hall, like moving down the hallway on its own. He bursts out of the bathroom and he's chopping it by its side, saying, I got you. Mildred laughs and appears in front of him and attacks him. They struggle when Sean gets the butcher knife back and he buries it into her head and she falls over.
Now this is a part too, because when he first stabbed her as Chrissy, when she bit him and he stabbed her with the wood,
Yep.
and then in this scene, when he hits her in the head with the butcher knife, she's a demon or whatever.
Right.
She bleeds. Like, do they bleed? Is that a thing? Do they bleed blood?
It depends on what movie you're watching.
I
Some do, some don't.
I need a real answer. I need a real science-backed answer.
Do demons bleed?
It was just like, "Why is she spurting blood?" I just wouldn't think that that's what they would do, but I guess it's the best they had with what they were doing.
Right. So he puts one more camera on her head with the goal to know where she's going. We have Mildred's view, and she gets up and picks up his tape recorder and presses play for more ominous music. She follows his blood into the safe house.
Safe room.
Yeah, safe room. Sorry, safe room. I figured I was going to screw that up at some point.
You said it a bunch.
Uh, did I?
Yeah, but you
Eh,
correct yourself one time, but you have said
okay,
safe house a whole times.
gotcha. Well, hey, we'll go with it.
No one's gonna listen to
Uh,
this anyway.
So she peeks around a corner where she thinks Sean may have gone, but he comes out on the other side with a chair, knocking her out. He proceeds to duct tape her to the floor
Yeah,
because he ended up drawing like a Hamas hand on the floor.
right.
And his duct tape job is terrible to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so first he thinks he can hide from ghosts in a closet under a blanket, and now he thinks he can hold a demon down with duct tape. Now, don't get me wrong,
Right.
duct tape is fantastic for most things.
It
But
is.
a demon and he just puts, like, one little thing on her wrist, on each wrist, and then her mouth, but it's, like, not her feet, nothing else.
And on a dirty floor, I might add.
Yeah,
So it's not going to stick anyway. And if
right.
you look at it, it's already lifting up a little bit because of
Yeah,
said dirt.
right. Yeah, it was
Um,
dumb.
so he starts to conduct a ritual to take her power. When she starts to come to, she's scared at first, but then she starts laughing through the duct tape. And I don't know how she got through it all, but she was able to get up off the floor, ripping up the duct tape. I don't know how she did that. I don't,
It
because
it
there's
was
so much duct tape on that floor.
the strength
Right.
she had to have had to
I
get that
mean,
duct tape off.
that's a fucking demon.
That's the demonest of demons.
So she gets up and knocks him out. She ends up going to pick the other side of his nose,
Again,
and he comes to and he pulls her finger away from his hand, away from his nose, but it starts to grow towards his nose.
yeah, it does. Yeah, it gets along.
Yeah.
He
And
does the
so
same thing we are doing.
right.
Yeah.
And Mildred is like really messing him up. Like she's really beating the shit out of him.
Oh, I thought you were gonna
She
continue on with that. I didn't wanna ruin it.
Oh
But
no. I mean, I don't know much more. I mean, her finger was trying to get elongated. He pulled it away.
well, he pulled it
Mildred's
away, and he was like, "What is up with you and my" which is what
That's
we were
right.
like, "What? What is
That's
this? What
right.
is this?" Yeah.
She's punching him. She waterboards him with his own urine, and her face is
Ugh.
mutating. Like her face is like really, the mouth is like really like
Yeah,
demonic at this point.
getting distorted, yeah.
Yeah. And he throws her off and he gets up to run. Mildred is just crawling after him. I don't know why, because Mildred's
Yeah,
feet are okay.
yeah, I didn't understand that either.
Like he just popped her in the head, unless like he did some nerve damage or something. I don't know.
I mean, she's had a butcher knife in her head, and she's beaten him the crap out of him, and she was duct taped. The duct
True,
tape made it so that she had to crawl. I was
true,
like,
maybe.
it's a powerful duct
Uh,
tape.
right. So she's crawling after him, and of course, he falls down the stairs as Mildred was still crawling on the floor upstairs. So, as he was trying to run away, he falls down the stairs. Now he's down the stairs and he's crawling across the floor, saying that he said the words, I said the words. He says, Mildred's coming to get me. And Sean is saying goodbye to his chat, apologizes for letting them down. He ends up finding the decayed finger that he threw earlier. And he remembers the old lady from the video saying that you needed a flesh sacrifice. So he begins the ritual again, but adding a flip off to Mildred as he's yelling out the words. He takes the butcher knife out of her head and chops off his own finger.
And he does it
He's
horribly too. He has to, like,
oh
do it twice almost, like,
yeah.
it was bad.
He's in pain.
Yep.
And Mildred screams and is pulled into a blood lake in the basement that was not there before.
Yeah, I assumed that she got pulled into the depths of hell and exploded, and again, because she's a demon, she's a body demon, she has blood, I don't know. I
Right.
don't know the blood thing, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know. And so as she gets pulled down into this bloody lake thing, it bursts out with a belch.
Yeah,
The lake burped. Way better than Fever Lake just bubbling. This one
right.
belched. Sean looks around the house laughing. He's just kind of like standing there looking around.
Mhm,
He says he's like, I did it, as he's duct taping his hand to
right.
stop the bleeding. Sean is talking to the chat, saying that he beat the house and he's thanking the fans. He's like really being kind of arrogant about the victory. I did it. None of you, like, you guys can't get me, whatever. And as he's doing his outro to his live stream, he hears a gurgling sound. He turns around and he sees the conjoined twins, another ghost creature that we didn't see. I thought maybe it was supposed to be Mildred, but it was like this really bigger, I guess I can say this because I am fatter ghost.
I think it was the
And
thing that was in the tub.
well, that was Corner Man.
Well, that's what I thought too, but then Corner Man was, because there were 3 things there.
Right.
3 things showed up. One, I was a conjoined twin kid. One was Corner Man, and then there was something else, and I just thought that was the tub guy because
Okay.
his face was weird where his eye was gone.
Yeah, because
Because that
I
was out the
think,
thing that was out in the woods, I think.
yes. Yeah, I was just going to say that. I think Tub Guy was the same one in the
Tub
woods.
guy.
So, well, it's better than Tub Girl. Do you want to get into that one?
Well, I'm just saying it's funny because tub guy, corner man, death house, it fits.
And so at this point, the conjoined twins, the Tub Guy and Corner
Oh,
Man,
no. No, it can't be the guy that was out in the woods. Who the fuck is that other person?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Okay, go ahead.
So Corner Man's coming in slowly after him. And this is when you can really tell, like, all the suits are made out of rubber.
Oh, yeah, yeah. This is very, very, yeah. Although,
Right.
okay, hold on. So that one is not corner man. He is just tub guy because
Right.
his eye was fucked up.
Right.
Corner man was the other one, and then the conjoined twins, and then his tub man was not Woods guy.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're trying to keep it straight.
Right, I'm like, this is because I realized a little second ago, like, wait a minute. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So he turns to try to leave through a door, and a ghost, which I do believe is Wood's ghost, Forest Ghost, pops out and goes to, and the screen goes to black. It says connection lost. The
Mhm.
stream has ended. And then end credits.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that when we were watching it, there's an extra guy there, and because I thought tub guy originally was corner man.
Right. So did I.
Yeah, and then when we got downstairs, I saw that tub guy and corner man were 2 different people. I thought, oh, at that time, I thought tub guy was the Woods guy. But then just now, I was like, wait a minute, no, Woods guy was at the door. So
Right. Yeah,
because those 3 looked a lot alike.
yeah, they did.
Yeah.
But I also don't remember them really talking about the one in the woods
No,
and the one in the tub.
no, I don't remember that either.
Because they just said that they found a dead body that had that the face was eaten off by rats, but
Mhm.
the faces, even though they were like demonish, they were still relatively intact.
Right, yeah.
So
But yeah,
who knows?
they and I guess, due to money reasons, they probably just kinda had the same sort of thing because they did look a lot alike now, but now that we're talking about it, I'm like, "Wait a minute. Okay, hold on." So, alright, so movie's over. Okay.
It is. What did you think of it?
So, when I first started watching it, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be annoying as fuck." But I ended up and I watched this with my friend Jolyn. I consider this more of a horror comedy
Yes.
than anything else, and I did think it was kinda funny in a very sophomore-ish way, but I thought it was funny in some parts. The chat was funny, we really liked the chat, and we kept trying to read the chat, and it was funny, I liked how they brought in certain things, like, they made comments about PewDiePie a
Yes.
couple of times, and, like, there was one point where they thought Shaw was gonna die, and they're like, "Oh, I guess PewDiePie's gonna be back at number 1." You know, they kind of brought in some real elements of real things
Right.
having to do with, influencers and stuff. I didn't hate it though. I actually thought it was a fun little movie. I thought I was gonna hate it, and I didn't hate it, and I think if they had tried to take it seriously and made it to where it was like a real horror movie or I don't know what else you wanna say, how else you would say that, but I think I would have hated it because it would have come off as really stupid in that, like, they're trying to make it like a real horror movie,
Yeah, like
and
if like it was like more like if they were trying to do more of a serious tone.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So the fact they kept it light and funny, and I liked the guy. I liked how the guy portrayed the character. I mean, I didn't like the character. Obviously, I don't think you're meant to like him, but I like how he did play the character because I felt like it was fitting for the movie, and that he was a shitty ass influencer who did all this dumb shit, and and he was annoying as he's supposed to be, and so I think that fit. I can't think of anything that like annoyed me to the point where I was like or whatever, like I hated it. Even his screaming, and I know you hated his screaming, but I thought his screaming was kind of funny at times because it was just so over the top and and high pitched and ridiculous, which I thought felt kind of fit with it as well. So I really didn't hate the movie. I kind of actually enjoyed it. Again, it's funny because there are certain movies that even though I am always looking for horror movies to watch, this is not one that I would have just picked just because of the premise of it. I would not have ever picked this movie to watch without somebody telling me to watch it, which you did. But I liked it. I thought it was a fun movie. I thought it was exactly what it was meant to be.
Yeah.
That it wasn't anything and it was funny because I watched it the second time. Jolyn said, "Did you see anything new?" Or like I was like, "No." I was like, it wasn't like there was some twist or aha moment that
Right.
it was nothing like Making Monsters where I had many aha moments after when we were talking about it.
Right.
This one does not have that at all. So, it's just a basic trying to be funny horror movie. So, yeah, I didn't hate it. I would say I'd give it 6 cents. I mean, it wasn't like the best movie ever, of course, but I didn't hate it. It wasn't horrible. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I had a good time. We had a good time watching it. So,
Yeah, I watched it when it first hit streaming, like when it first hit Shutter,
mhm,
and I remember not liking it when I first saw it, and I think
right.
it had a lot to do with the guy screaming.
Yeah,
Really, it really
right.
annoyed me after a while,
Mhm,
and I had forgotten um, a lot of it,
right.
and I forgot about the humor elements of it. And so I agree with you. Like I feel like that they knew exactly what they had and what they were doing with it,
Right.
so they didn't take it too seriously. Like it really kind of felt like it was in the same vein as Evil Dead 2,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
where they try to like throw some schlock comedy in there, but also
Right.
keeping it like try to keep it scary at the same time.
Mhm.
And they did a good job with putting it in the right spots. So
Right.
rewatching it the two times that I did,
Mhm.
this time around,
Right.
I did end up liking it a lot more. And like I said, like when you see the actor portraying this character and the way you feel about him, like to me, again, that tells me that they're doing a good job as far as an actor. Because, like you said, he's not meant to be liked. And the way this guy portrays him, he's not a redeemable character. He's not, but in a way that it's not conducive to the story, because
Right.
sometimes like we've talked about others where they've had that and, like no redeeming qualities whatsoever. So I didn't care if they lived or died.
Right.
The way they do this character, there's that, but then later on they kind of give him like a little bit of redemption,
Right.
but it's only
Mhm.
when he's faced with death
Right,
but
exactly.
he has a little bit of redemption to him. So
Yeah, I
so
almost
I
feel
feel like they
like
do it the right way.
yeah, I almost feel like talking about that redemption, like when he gets to the point where he thinks he's gonna die and he says all of this stuff about how he's sorry, this, that, or whatever, blah, 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 blah. I think that's only because of the moment. If he were, because we don't know if he lived or whatever,
Right.
as he was going out the door, that monster was right there. So he possibly could have died. I don't know. And if he had lived and gone on, he would have gone right back to being the way he was. I guarantee it.
Oh yeah. I
Like,
mean,
yeah, he'd have been a
like
shitbag.
like any other YouTuber.
Like us. No.
Right, like us.
But, I'm surprised they had
But
when did this come out? Do you know?
uh
22?
yeah, I think it was 22.
Because it leaves a bit of an opening for possibly a second one,
Yeah, it
because he
does.
could be bound to the house now, and maybe somebody else comes in, and he's now the guy that is haunting them.
Yeah, it was done at South by Southwest
Mhm.
on March 11th, 2022, and was officially released on October 6th, 2022 on Shutter.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah.
Um,
So
so Um, so much like you, I would give it 6 cents. It would have been
mhm.
lower, but you made a good point about the costumes because I was really annoyed with the rubber costumes. But you made a good point. Like if they did all of this themselves,
Yeah.
then I can't really be too critical about that because if we're talking about self-made stuff, they did a good job on the costumes.
Yeah, overall, had a very, because even June 9th. Now, of course, June 9th, when they did that through the filming with like an 8 I don't know if it was an 8 millimeter camera. Well, probably not in the 90s, but it had that scratchy, blurry feel to it. This had a very sharp, clear, professional, not homemade feel to it. For being independent, overall, it looked really good.
Yeah.
And I can give a pat because I was like, "What's the fuck with these costumes? Like, what is this shit?" But I also was like, well, how much money they have for that kind of shit if you're doing this on your own. So
Right.
I would like, okay, I'll give it a pass. So it was pretty good for the fact that in terms of that, the
Yes,
costumes, the fact that they have probably didn't have a shit ton of money to do it with.
I agree.
So, although I was looking him up and he has VHS 99.
Okay.
He did that movie.
Yeah,
Have you seen that
and
one?
I tried watching 90, like, I like the first 3 VHS movies.
Mhm.
Everything after that, I've had a hard time with.
I've not seen that. So I don't know anything about that one, what it's like or what it looks like, or
Yeah.
in
As
fact,
I
I think I've only
recall
seen the first VHS.
it definitely has a '90s feel to it, like, as far
Mhm.
as, like, the videotapes and everything, like, it definitely does a good job with the effects of, like, the running tape and, the lines and the
Right.
fuzziness, but like I said, I've struggled with anything past VHS 3.
Oh, okay. I
I might have to try watching them again.
also, the girl that played Chrissy/Mildred is in that movie as well.
Yeah, yeah, because I looked her up because I wanted to know what else she's been in.
Yeah, she looked really familiar to me, so I had to look her up too. I was like,
Yeah.
"Where have I seen this girl?" But I couldn't figure out where I saw her. But alright, so 6 cents from the 2 of us, and I think that's it unless you have something else to say.
We can put a sock on it.
There you go. All right. So that's a wrap on Deadstream. If you survived the scares and secondhand embarrassment, don't forget to follow and drop your wildest live stream horror stories. There's a bunch of people out there that have those. Next up, we're keeping the digital chaos rolling with Sissy. So get ready for even more deadly followers. It's available on Shudder, AMC Plus, Philo, Hoopla, and Plex, and you can also rent it on Amazon Prime or Apple TV. And as always, be scared, be prepared, and don't get caught in the dark.